dream of what I wanna be. I wanna be free. That's what my heart keeps telling me. Give me your hand.
We'll find a way.
There's people out there
that feel the same.
if we help each other. I just know we can succeed. We are one, but we are different. We from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl. Come together and share our dreams. We'll be amongst the stars, and we know that it's destiny. And we are unity. We are unity.
I do believe, oh I believe in destiny. It's up to me to make it into reality.
Give me your hand.
We'll find a way
People out there,
that feel the same.
if we help each other,
I just know we can succeed.
we are one, but we are different. We from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl. Come together and share our dreams. We'll be amongst the stars, and we know that it's destiny. That we are unity. No matter where you're from or who you are, if we can find common place to be, then we are friends. We are one, but we are different. We from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. Oh. We are one, but we are different. We're from all around the world. We share the same sun, we share the same oceans. We are every boy and girl. Come together and share our dreams. We'll be amongst the stars, and we know that it's destiny. That we are unity. We are unity.
Thank you very much. We are unity. We are one humanity. My name is Nino Berdznishvili. I'm president of Caucasus Association of Logotherapy and Existential Analysis, which unites Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Ukraine. And I'm very, very happy and honored to see you again today at our conference, the One Humanity. And today we have the second day of our conference. So thank you very much, each and everyone, for being today here with us. We are one humanity. And let me introduce you our presenter for today. He is originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he also lives in South Africa. He is our honored colleague, clinical manager at Westkopie's Psychiatric Hospital. He is also logotherapy facilitator at Viktor Frankl Institute of South Africa and e-tutor for the Department of Anthropology at the University of South Africa. And Dr. Kanda Kalala and his presentation, Logotherapy Contribution to Leadership Today. Please, Dr. Kanda.
Thank you very much, Nino, for that kind introduction and for organizing this beautiful moment And the anthem we just played now with the different flag, with our hope and prayer that we would have indeed a united humanity. I'm sharing my presentation. Please let me know if you are able to see my presentation. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. This afternoon, or depending on where you are, I would like to take you through what could be the contribution of logotherapy to leadership today in the world as we know it today. How could logotherapists use logotherapy to improve leadership and the world where we are living in? So before I start this presentation, I just thought I should invite you to reflect and think on the beauty of daily living, where you are, wherever you are. There should be some way where you'd experience some kind of beauty during the day. These are images I wish to share with you from the hospital where I'm living, which is actually located in a botanical garden used as a way of using nature to facilitate healing. And of course, I would like as well for you to reflect on possible miracles and gifts we do receive in life and which we sometimes overlook. For me, I thought the very conference we are having today, it's a miracle. For people of my generation who were born in the 60s, when we were growing up, you could never imagine that you could find yourself on a computer as I am now, looking and interacting with people from all over the world. For me, this is a miracle. Some of you might have taken it for granted, but this is definitely a privilege which many other people do not always have. So I thought it's important to look at these daily beauty we have and miracle and gift we have in life. It's very important to remind ourselves where we are when life becomes tough. As Frankl reminds us, Frankl have come up with a concept of tragic triad, which he says that every human being at one moment or another would experience pain and suffering, death and guilt in one form or another form. So that's the reason why I thought I should share with you with the beauty and the miracles initially, so that we can as well have the courage to look at the tragic triad. And our world today, we know, is with multiple crises in different sectors, health sectors, economic sectors, education, and in general, social cultural crisis with different forms of wars between people and communities, and including leadership itself, it's also in crisis. But Frankl would remind us to say there are different types of pain, but he also made a difference between avoidable and unavoidable suffering. The unavoidable suffering being the suffering you and I have got no way of avoiding or taking away, but we do also have avoidable suffering. These are human-made suffering. And generally, I thought for me, generally these are forms of violence which induce suffering and pain, poverty, which is provoked and made by human being in the way we share the world we are living in and its resources, and of course, different epidemics made of different types of illnesses, communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. Quite a number of these diseases, they are actually related to the way we are living. So when we reflect in terms of suffering, I thought that we do have a chain of pain and suffering, especially when that suffering is experienced without a sense of meaning. It leads to despair, and that despair leads to disconnection between human beings who become isolated, alienated, and they also have to move in the search of trying to protect themselves or finding a shelter or a better place to stay. That displacement could also affect the connection of human being living as a community. And then in that situation where there are alienation or isolation, we as a human being can experience doubt, confusion, and what I call, and some other people have called, social cultural disorientation. Of course, Frankl have come up with the concept of existential vacuum, which is related to the frustration of the will meaning. So the violence specifically, and here I have to say there are many forms of violence. We should not only think of the physical violence, but we do also have structural violence, symbolic violence, which can lead to pain and suffering, and it results in the fragmentation of community and the culture, and that again explains the social cultural disorientation. I thought it's very important for us to realize that when we are in that kind of situation of suffering due to different type of violence, we might have a very poor view of ourselves, of others, and the world. So we have to be very careful with the type of discourse theories we come up with, which are developed in a context of pain and suffering, because those kind of theories and worldview can be skewed because of the intensity of pain and suffering. Yeah, then Frankl as well proposed the concept of neurotic triad. When one experience suffering without meaning, the experience a sense of despair, and that would lead to an existential frustration, which if it's not taken care of, that existential frustration, it can develop into one of these conditions which makes up the neurotic triad, that is depression, aggression, and addiction. It's very important for me to say that these concepts are used here mostly as in a general term, not in the clinical term as we use it in medicine with the different classification of mental illnesses. And it's also very important to acknowledge that quite often these conditions coexist, that one might have depression and addiction and aggression at the same time as well. But when one goes to such this context of suffering with the social-cultural disorientation or existential emptiness due to suffering and violence, it raises a number of questions, some of them the existential questions such as who are we, where are we coming from, where shall we go from here? Of course, we would have to also to ask what's our purpose here, what's our vision and mission in our life? And of course, why and how shall we survive? So I thought not only me, but we can suggest that culture in generally made with worldview and values would help human beings to be motivated to live a certain way. And that motivation can be entertained by leadership, which results in a particular way of living, a particular way of behaving. And of course, all of that has an impact, an outcome in terms of at the individual and community level, which, if it is healthy and beautiful, should result into community and individual development, peace, and health. And such environment would also sustain the community and its cultures and values. So when we look at it that way, then we understand then that leadership, it's quite an important factor in our life, and we need to pay attention to it, especially in the situation where we are faced with so many crises, including leadership itself. So what is it? There've been a number of definitions of leadership. I'm not going to go through them here, but I've highlighted what I thought are the most important word in these different definitions is that of influence, to influence others or influencing others for a shared goals or purpose. But the question is, how do we agree on the shared goal or purpose? And for me, I felt that it's also in a way related to the issue of motivation, as I mentioned initially. Now, if one can ask that when we are in a situation of socio-cultural disorientation, where we have lost our traditions because of the fragmentation and destruction of the community and with its culture, we might not have those traditions to direct us on how to live our life and accomplish the shared goal or purpose. So the question is, what is the primary motivation factors? Now, in this kind of situation where one is frustrated or is victim of violence and suffering, and now wanting to survive, this is why the question was, if we need to survive, it's how and why should we survive? Now, if one wants to survive, we might look at leadership as a way of coming up with a way of surviving as a community or as a group. But that leadership can be then based on power. And I would like to suggest that when it's based only on power without responsibility, that kind of leadership would lead to aggression and violence. And it's a way of leading by force and punishment. That's some of these leadership style are. And sometimes leadership then might be based on the will to money or search for money, making profits, making more money as much as one can make without love. That could lead to addiction, because you never know how much money one has to have. We don't know what's the ceiling one should have to say, I've got enough. So with that type of leadership, it will be leading for pleasure and reward, where you do what we want you to do, then we reward you with something or with money. If you don't, there is no reward. But then leadership can also be based on the will to knowledge. And in this case, if it's will to knowledge without wisdom, I would like to suggest that it will lead to depression, that we can have as much as knowledge as we want to have, but without wisdom, we would always realize that as a human being, we are limited, we are not perfect, and that can be very depressing. So this kind of leadership based on knowledge only, it's a leading with techniques and manipulation of value, where we use other people as means to achieve our personal aims or goals. So you remember the question of what is the primary motivation factor? We would say logotherapy would contribute by saying the main primary motivation factor should be the will to meaning. So we should have a leadership based on will to meaning. And that leadership based on will to meaning, I would like to call it meaning-centered, integrated, existential leadership. And it's a meaning, it's a leadership which should be able to integrate these three factors, which are love, wisdom, and responsibility. Here, we are leading not by fear, not by force, not by manipulating other people, but leading by love and searching for wisdom to guide us in the way we take care of other people and influence them, and always being answerable and accountable. So such my definition then to meaning to leadership would be then it's an ability to influence others for their own sake and the sake of the humanity. So this is purely based on the self-transcendence of the will to meaning, that when one is leading, is not leading for his own purpose or his own goal, but is leading for the sake of the people around him and for the sake of humanity at large. And such a meaning-centered leadership, it's based on meaning, which always points to what is beautiful, true, and right. So such a meaning-centered leadership, then based on the beautiful, the truth, and the good, should be a healthy leadership. Leadership, it's a form of a heart where we lead in a healthy way, allowing people to take the right decision, allowing people to experience the beauty of life. And it's also based on the truth, on what's real, what is there. In that case, it should be also a therapeutic leadership based on science. And of course, it should be an ethical, existential, or spiritual leadership, as it should always be right and good for the sake of those around us and the humanity at large. I would like to also say that such a meaning-centered, integrated existential leadership would use Fabry's guidepost to meaning. It's a process of leadership which allows self-discovery for the leader and the followers, that as they interact, as they influence each other, they discover who they are truly called to be. They actually become authentic beings, and they use their freedom to make choices. But these choices, they have to be aware that it's also choices based on their uniqueness and the uniqueness of their situation. And of course, when one talk of freedom, Franco would always say that freedom comes with responsibility, being an ability to respond to our moments within which we are experiencing meaning. And of course, the last guidepost will be self-transcendence, that process of leadership, it's always a process of reaching out the other person, going beyond ourselves. So, my dear fellow, this is what I thought I would share with you for this conference, and I thought I would share a little bit of the references which I used to come up with this presentation. I would like then to say thank you for your attention and share my last thoughts in saying meaning-centered leaders are pacemakers and not peacemakers. I don't know if you agree with me, but we can discuss on that. This is what I thought I should share with you. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I'm within time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really meaningful, and this presentation was very actual. So thank you very much. And as usual, we have a couple of minutes for QA or for brainstorming or for changing thoughts. So please be active. It shouldn't be just monologue, but dialogue. So please, we invite you to share ideas. What do you think about the last suggestion, last sentence that leaders should be pacemakers but not peacemakers? Do you agree with it?
Oh, thank you, Nino, and thank you, Dr. Kanda, for your speech. Very interesting. I don't want to answer to the last question, but I was interested in a point that was before about the violence, because it is strictly related to my speech, to the content of my speech. And I would like to ask you, why is a poor view of the world why a poor view of the world is present when we are in a situation of violence?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a very, very important question and relevant. I would suggest that in any situation of violence and suffering, it does trigger emotions. And we know as the more the emotions, the fear, one of the emotions is the fear, because if one is exposed to violence, there is a high risk of losing one life or somebody else's life. That is a very tense moment. It's a dangerous moment where we become very, very, very alert. I think yesterday someone I think made a presentation on negotiations. I think it's Osmed. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. He also referred to emotions on a neurological level, being at the amygdala level, that our cognitive functions can be shut down and be overpowered, overwhelmed by emotions. That's why I said that could really skew our worldview. We might miss to see clearly what life is made of. Remember that, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. This is the reason why at the beginning I started with looking at the beauty of daily living and being aware of our miracles and gifts, because quite often when we get into the day-to-day life with such high intense emotions and we become hyper intended to achieve a particular goal, the views are very narrowed. We do not see the beauty and the possibility in life. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but that's how I would put it.
No,
Thank
yeah,
you.
sure.
And
Thank you.
and that could explain why there is this, I call it vicious spiral of violence and suffering. That the more we have suffering, the more likely we would have violence, because it's the one feeds on the other, and that chain needs to be broken through the will to meaning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There's something that occurred to me, if I could make a comment.
Yes, please. Yes, please, but yeah.
So I agree with everything you've said. I think it's beautifully formulated. And very often in the world today, leaders use words, they twist the language. And they use words similar to the words that you are using, only they mean something entirely different by it. So what can we do about that? And maybe that relates to what you said about being pacemakers and not peacemakers, because even, the verse in the Bible, they say peace, peace, and there is no peace. So that's a word that people have used incorrectly very often.
Thank you very much, Batia, for that comment. Yes, I'm aware that this was not an easy topic for me to present, especially in the world where we are. We generally twist, as the previous question was asked, twist some of this word to satisfy us. But it takes courage for us to be really self-transcendent and reaching out, going beyond ourselves to listen and be with the other person, connect truly with the other person, to share a true, authentic, clear communication. Yes, so the issue, well, the way I would put it with Frankl is he says peace, for example, or health, they are byproducts of will to meaning. So as a leader or as a human being, I'm not going to spend time to try to build peace, because it's not entirely up to me. But what I can definitely do is to attend to what life is calling me to do. And remember, life calling me to do, to answer to my own calling. And that calling always point to what is beautiful, what is true, what is right and good. And by doing so, I would keep away from conflicts, and peace would come on its own as much as health. But if we want to force this on other people, there is a risk that the very peace we are trying to have, we are actually causing more harm. I did purposely put it at the end of my last slide, just to tease an ongoing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have also a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
What do you think? Has the portrait of a leader changed these days?
I think what I tend to agree with other people is that we are into crisis. We don't know what should a leader be. The many of those we thought are leaders, we just realize that they are there for their personal interests. So we are definitely personally, the way I look at it, that we are in a crisis where we are looking for truly leaders. I'm sure they are there. We need to make them be visible, and we need to support them to be having more impact on the world the way it is. I would definitely think of yourself, Nino. I'm not saying this to buy you first. You are a leader by organizing this conference and putting such a number of people from different corner of the world. It's a leadership. It's definitely a leadership. How visible it is, that's a question. And I believe then this could be the calling of logotherapists. How do we use the message of Frankl to support healthy, therapeutic, ethical leadership? I don't know if I've answered your question. It's a tricky one. It depends on where you are, but I personally think we are into a crisis, and in a crisis, we are bound to be searching for a true leader. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. And I also wanted to share my thoughts that maybe leader, I think leader is the person who is showing others how to find and explore meaning, not giving just motivation to his I don't know, colleagues or members of some organization or so on. Just showing how to find meaning in different circumstances.
Do we have time for me to say something?
Yeah, sure.
I agree with you. Actually, then that way I would say that's a pacemaker. The pacemaker is the one who determines the pace, the rhythm, Frankl, there's someone, I don't know if it's so Frankl referred to it, that between the stimulus and the reaction, there is a space, and in that space there is our freedom. So the pacemakers would always remind us that we do have that space of freedom of taking the right decision, of always putting some kind of vision toward which we should be going, then becoming. So I definitely agree with you.
Thanks a lot. Yes, please.
I think the issue of leadership is quite complex, and a lot more to discuss than the time we have here. But in short, I think it needs to be split into two contexts. One is the leadership, you can say, of governments or serious leadership, and one is the leadership that we can achieve in our daily lives. Like Dr. Kanda said, what you're doing or what each of us can take responsibility for. The problem is any leaders that have power they're in it for the power, and people in general, humanity in general, want to know, it's human nature, want to know that they've got a strong leader to protect them. They're not capable of making decisions. Most people aren't capable of responsibility and choice. They don't know how. So on a global scale, whoever is the leader is the one who sadly have their own interests, because that's how they claw their way up. They have no morals, so they get money from suspect sources, and they put anybody with a bit of humanity down. It's a utopian ideal, which obviously we all want, but I don't think it's practical taking into account human nature and society. When we're in small tribes, you can have a leader that cares about the rest of the people because he knows them. You have the human contact, the self-transcendence. But globally, sadly, I don't feel it's a possibility. Doesn't mean we can't hope for it, but I think it would be a lot more realistic to be leaders in our lives, in our communities, because as was said yesterday, every person that you affect then goes on to affect at least another one, and then another one, and then another one. And it doesn't make it less important.
Thank you very much. That's very important, what you've made as point. Thank you. It is a very huge topic. I only hope, Nino, that through this conference it would open more discussion even beyond this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. It was very nice that you told, and maybe the solution is to grow more leaders all over the world and to grow leader inside us, and we will be enormous quantity of leaders, and so maybe this is solution. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kanda, for your nice presentation. And another our speaker, Sam Cyrous. Let me invite him. He is logotherapist. He is clinical psychologist and head of Brazilian Association of Logotherapy and Existential Analysis. And his talk will be named 5 Challenges for a Monantropic World. So please.
The mic, always the mic. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you, Nino, for this kind invitation. Nice to see some faces I know. Professor Aureliano, come stiamo? Caro mio, Adriana, bom dia. Well, this talk always makes me think when I talk about monantropy, I always imagine what should I say? To whom am I talking to? And perhaps the first thing I must say is that my whole life, my entire existence, my whole life has been one big lie. And Yes, you heard me well. One big lie. And I think I live a lie, and it's time to accept it here in the Caucasus. And well, except for Adriana, no one else from Brazil here, so I can be honest with you. You all deserve to know me. I often hear people tell me, wow, what a different name. Wow, you speak differently. Wow, you did something different than what I'm used to. Always followed by the question, where are you from? I often see international events putting the Brazilian flag next to my name. And I often have some behavior that is my own. I like or dislike something. I prefer something and some things bother me. And people say, oh, okay, that's normal in your country. That's how it works there, right? And I often ask myself, what do people really want to know when they ask about my country? Then I create a story. Sometimes I'm Uruguayan, sometimes I'm Portuguese, sometimes it is because of my Spanish background, sometimes because I'm from the Middle East, to the point that my wife asked me jokingly at the beginning of our marriage every single day, where are you from today? The truth is that any explanation is simplistic and false, hence a lie. One day during the masters in family therapy, the director said in class that the most effective marriage, and parentheses, up until today, I have no idea what does it mean to be in an effective marriage. The most effective marriages were made up by those people with the same cultural background. The whole class stopped and looked at me. And one of my best friends back then laughed and said, with his hands on my shoulder, "Who are you, my friend? You'll die alone." Being Persian, born in Uruguay, raised in the Portuguese language of Brazil and Portugal with residence, wife, daughter in Brazil, and a Portuguese passport, and a master's degree in Spain, where am I from? Any answer is a lie. Any answer is a homunculism, a reductionism, a nationalism, and like all isms, a falsehood. Just the truth, the very truth is that people tend to look for simple answers. And it's not surprising that more and more people believe in a flat earth. It is empirical, practical, visible to the physical dimension. The accumulation of scientific knowledge over generations and generations in geography, maths, and physics is so complex that if we blink at one single moment, we lose sense of reality and we live in the illusions of lie. People tend to look for simple answers. It is not surprising that the internet is filled with formulas and recipes. 5 steps for a happy marriage. 3 tips to overcome depression. Buy my ebook and avoid suicide. The physical and the psychic dimensions look for the most economical and practical ways. They do not want the complexity of the phenomena. But the truth is that we are much more than pieces put together. I am much more than Uruguayan, much more than Portuguese. In fact, the least I am is Uruguayan. In the services obtaining the ID and the passport, they kept wanting me to change lines because the line for foreigners is that one. The line for those who acquire the nationality is the other one. In Brazil, the immigration department, the immigration services, they kept thinking I was the lawyer of some migrant, when in fact I was the migrant. I'm more than Portuguese, despite the wave of xenophobia that is growing in the country. And in Spain, I was the Portuguese. And when I did my exchange in Italy, I was el españolo, the Spanish one. I'm much more, and we are all much more than our nationalities. The nationalities, they stamp on us to justify the stories they want to tell about us. To the point that my parents are Iranians and I'm Persian. My mother once, kind of upset, asked me, "What do you mean If you're my son and I'm Iranian, you are Iranian. Of course, it's logical. But firstly, because they were born in Persia. Iran has existed since 79 modern times. Secondly, because it is much more glamorous to be Persian than Iranian. But am I Persian or even Iranian? As much as I love Iranian food and Persian poets, I've never set my foot in Iran. Is that my home? Or am I Portuguese? My documents say yes. My literature taste also confirms it. But I hate Portuguese food, which is considered actually one of the best in Europe. Am I Uruguayan? That's the least I am. After all, I was born and lived a few months in Montevideo, the capital city of Uruguay, or in another Uruguayan city. But I have a huge affection for the country. And I think that the Uruguayan flag is probably the most beautiful one in the world. Brazilian? The state does not consider me Brazilian, preventing me various things. And that's the big lie, saying that I am from one place. By creating a simplistic answer, the origin story disguises a thirst for pleasure and simplicity, or the power to determine my life. Because these stories are for those who are American enough or truly European enough. They serve to distinguish the Latinos from whites and tell Arabs and Muslims to go back to your place. They serve to fuse structured racism into societies. Through more discrete or sometimes more discrete laws or principles, they say these people are superior to these ones. For example, in South Africa, the South African apartheid, Black children were taken from their parents and moved to other families with closer skin tone. And teachers in the Northern Hemisphere, according to several researchers, tend not to help or to be as helpful to those students belonging to a minority group than those who are from that place. And when it comes to the curriculum, if your name sounds foreign, it tends to be poorly received, unless you're an English-speaking foreigner like Sam Cyrous, which is not even my real name. My parental surname is Haji. I should be known as Sam Haji, but Haji is etymologically Arabic, an Arabic name, and I would be demeaned by it. Cyrus, in turn, whoa, through the Greek transliteration, sounds more Anglophonic, like you probably know my cousin, who is not my cousin, Miley Cyrus. So it sounds much better. And it gives me points. Cyrus is my mother's surname, which actually is Cyrous. And I started using it more or less around September 15th, 2001. You probably remember what happened 4 days before, when everything that was Middle Eastern was demonized. The world is so fragmented that it seems we no longer know how to deal with differences. And I'm not the only one who changed the name, my name. I know dozens of migrants who do something with their names, with their physical appearance, their behavior, to look more like the local people. This happened to the gypsies who became Christians in the Middle Ages and changed the names of their saints. With the Hindus who became Muslims and changed their surnames to Sayyid to look like descendants of the Prophet. And it still happens today. And so, and thus, masses are born. Frankl explains that the masses do not tolerate individuality, the uniqueness, the unrepeatableness of people. Everyone in the masses must be equal. And in an attempt of this so-called egalitarian system, they try to tell my story, your story, our stories, with a label that sums up our behaviors to one supposed cultural origin. The community, in turn, the community appreciates the different. And the truth is only reached when the dignity of a person is accepted. Because people for Frankel do not have mathematical or numerical value, but a dignity. The dignity that allows me to live my story without having to fit in their labels. And with it, the dignity of being truly original and different. The purpose of the mass is disturbed by the original and different individual. It breaks silences and sets the pace of change, which Meba was talking about, setting the pace. The silence of the masses oppresses, kills, and murders ideas and people on a daily basis. Your, mine, our silence about wars, street attacks, social inequalities. Your, mine, our silences about our mistakes and our limitations. The masses do not tolerate this, and they believe that they are taking care of the peace. Frankel criticizes the peacemakers. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres would say ignorance or indifference can lead to intolerance. And silence in face of intolerance is complicity. And thus, hatred is born. But no one is born hating another person for their skin color, their origin, their religion or faith or any other attribute. Hating is something we must learn. And if we learn and we are able to learn to hate, we can also relearn to love. A few months ago, it's December now, so 18 months today, I became the father of a little girl. And she, with her 18 months old existence in this world, taught me two valuable lessons. First one, we are not born knowing how to sleep. I have no idea why people think babies sleep well. We have to learn how to sleep. That's the first thing she taught me. The second thing she taught me is that we are born knowing how to love. The other day, she was with her fingers in her mouth, eating them up. And I said, are they tasty? And what did she do? She took them off her mouth and put them inside my mouth for me to taste them. That's in her own way saying, I love you enough to share with you this taste. We are born knowing how to love. And perhaps this is why Frankel says that the verb to know and the verb to love are the same in Hebrew. Well, not exactly, but anyone who has read the Bible, for example, knows that to know, the verb to know, is used for loving or sexual relationships. Bible scholar William Barclay, on his commentary on John 17, 1-5, he says that the knowledge between husband and wife is the most intimate that can exist. Husband and wife are no longer two, they are one flesh now. What is important in the intimacy of the heart and the mind and the soul, which is true love, precedes the act. Therefore, he says, to know God is not simply to have an intellectual knowledge of him, it's to have an intimate relationship with him, which is the closest and dearest relationship in life. There is a Baha'i text inspired by an Islamic story, which speaks of a pilgrim who travels through the valleys of search, love, and knowledge before reaching the fourth valley, which is the valley of unity. And we are the ones who can decide what the valley of unity can be like, whether it will be inspired by lies, like the masses, or inspired by the truth, like the community. When we are inspired by lies, we speak with equals. And this is wonderful. We love to speak with equals. But the problem is that this makes us move towards the masses of extremism, feeding the fragmentation of the world between me and the thing or the others. And the beliefs I have fed and the beliefs I feed and I have fed to others are the same beliefs they feed to me. They feed me back. They're the same things. And what happens then? Our beliefs become our common identity, the common identity of the mass. And we become what we think. And it's no coincidence that many philosophers say that true identity is our thought. Because here in the mass, our thoughts, our opinions, the story we choose to tell are who we are. And if someone wants to tell us something different, what do we choose to do? We choose to tell. When they want to tell us something different, we choose to attack them back. Because they're not contradicting one idea. They're not saying they disagree. We sense that they are attacking us. And if I am part of a mass of equals, the mass unites with me and we attack to destroy them. Now, do you understand why there are silences in the world? Often because we don't want to be attacked for thinking differently. We stay quiet. And of course, silence is thought to be consent. So there's no disagreement. Everyone agrees with me. But what am I really doing in my silence? Just talking to people who think the same as me and are intolerant to the others. Frankl calls this reciprocal monologue. Sorry. We need to learn to find people who think differently, but are willing to talk. We don't need to hunt and kill butterflies to make the world as beautiful as we want it to be. We need to plant flowers to attract the butterflies. We need to move away from the masses who want to limit us and move towards meeting others. The word, well, not the word meeting, but the equivalent, which is more often used in Latin languages, encounter, literally means uniting with what is against, going to meet the ones who are counter us, encounter. This is what Martin Buber was talking about when he said that one should not objectify the you, but treat the you with dignity. Hermann Cohen, a Jewish thinker often quoted by Frankl, but most of us barely know him, he once said, even if I had no heart in my body, my education alone would give me the understanding that the great majority of men cannot be isolated from me, and neither am I anything if I am not a part of them. Maya Angelou, in her poem Human Family, said, we are more alike, my friends, than unalike. To be a pacemaker, as Frankl advocated, is to challenge the concept of normality. Being a pacemaker means not laughing with an air of superiority, not offending others, or being condescending. Because these positions do not allow us to discover the truth. They create barriers. The relationship of dialogue is the only one that allows us to discover the truth of meaning. The relationship of dialogue is when we discover the logos together, me and you. The relationship of dialogue is understanding that you and I are like different bricks placed in specific places. Each of us unique, unrepeatable. Each of us with our functions. Each of us imperfect. The relationship of dialogue allows us to discover the greatest of truths. That if we unite, we can arise to the heavens. all different bricks and stones, like the Sophia Cathedral in Kiev, raised to heavens, where men want a relationship with the transcendence. To escape from the masses is to escape to become a mountain or a volcano. We escape to the masses. We go there and we can think we are beautiful. In one moment we are, but we can explode in the next and destroy everything. To escape to the masses is to escape from the individual responsibility of acting. To escape from the masses and getting out of the masses is to escape towards the truth, is to become a pacemaker, a justice paragon, however small we may think we are, is to act where no one else acts. It is about being an agent of transformation. And there is only one place, one only, that we can go when we escape from the masses into the community. And there's only one community worth having and living in: the human community, the community of the anthropos, the community of the one anthropos, monanthropos, monantropism. So the question I hope I get asked more often is not, Sam, where are you from? But Sam, where are you going to? Or not even that. Sam, where are we going together? And above all, how are we going together? Madloba, Yakoyum, Shnorcha Kalatuyum, and Teshakoredra. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm under impression. Wow, so powerful, and it was like TEDx talk. Really, thank you very much. I have a suggestion to baptize you in Georgian, so you could be Georgian from today, if you don't mind. So thank you very much, dear Sam. This was very, very meaningful and wonderful, wonderful speech, really. And I invite you, yes, Batia, please.
Thank you, Sam. I really liked what you said about the masses, and that's what the message of Frankl. But I just wonder, when you talk about the human community, whether that means you're thinking like John Lennon, imagine there's no borders and there's no countries, and we might as well not put up all our flags the way that Nino asked us to, because there's only the individual and humanity, and there's nothing else. And I think the challenge that we really face and that we should be embracing is to understand that when we are each part of our own communities, in the way that the individual is supposed to relate to another individual, and that we do have something unique as a culture, as a religion, as a country, that we relate to each other with the same kind of love and respect that one individual needs to relate to the other, then we can really create something beautiful, right? And that's what it means to be a community, that there really is such a thing as community, right? And the other smaller comment that I just want to make is, you mentioned the word for love in Hebrew. So you mentioned, you alluded to da'at, which means knowledge, like knowing the person intimately. But there's another word, ahav, and it has in the word ahav, which is love, have, which is to give. So the idea that through giving is how you love.
Thank you, Batia, correct?
Yes.
I like this song by John Lennon, but I don't know if I totally agree with him. As an artistic production, I think it's wonderful, the song, but I'm not entirely sure if it was correct. Imagine there's no religion, imagine there are no countries. I think that all of this will continue to exist. but as steps. That's what I honestly think, looking at our society and the evolution of our planet. We had the clans, and the clans got together as tribes, and the tribes eventually become city-states. And the concept of nations, come on guys, is a concept so new that you live in places that the nations have 50 years, perhaps 60 years. The concept of nation is a brand new concept. The oldest nation in the world, Portugal, has 800 years or 900. Italy, if I'm not mistaken, has more or less 200 years. So these concepts, they kept evolving. We include more people, and that tends to make it difficult because we have to share ideas and decisions with people who before were the others. Now they're us. So I think it's one step at a time, and we can become up. I'm not a John Lennon fan in that sense. I'm a more Star Trek fan. I think all races can work together and keep belonging to what they are in their basis. I can still be a member of my family and my religion and my city and my country if I want to. But I cannot forget that I'm also a member of this planet. Our one planet. So I don't know if I answered your comment, Batia, or if this wasn't even a question, but I sense that I should offer you my reflections.
No, I think, we need continuing this discussion on it. So thank you.
Yeah. Once I told my colleague, let's be ambassadors of each other, of each other's country. And I think if we could be ambassadors of each other, it will be a beautiful world. Dear Ronnie, please.
I think Dr. Oriano was before me.
Go ahead, no problem. I will make my question after you, no problem.
No, go ahead, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
first of all, thank you very much for your presentation. I also yesterday presented the definition of monantropism. My theory, my hypothesis almost is that if we are not conscious of the monantropism, we will never put into practice. So it is important to be free, but it is most important to be conscious of our freedom. It is also important to be responsible, but it is also even more important to be conscious of our responsibility. So I believe that, I would like to know your opinion about that. I believe that if we are people who are growing the consciousness of anthroposophism and the consciousness of a free and responsible. So at the basis of all these opinions, there is consciousness. Without consciousness, we are less human. The more conscious we are more human. What do you think about this? Thank you.
Okay, Dio Santo, Professor Aureliano Pacciola is asking my opinion. Who am I to give my opinion to Professor Aureliano? Well, if we go to other theories, we can think about lots of different theories about that. You probably know Claire Graves, Don Beck, Chris Cowan, or even Ken Wilber, who's not a psychologist. They share this very idea you have, which is we must be conscious. And I think the act of being responsible, of sensing the responsibility, is being conscious of our freedom and we can only assume, in a Latin sense, we can only grab our responsible way of life, our free way of life. We are conscious that we are responsible and free. And what this theorist Cohen, Graves, Beck, Wilber, they say is basically that our sense of consciousness keeps evolving from one moment of history to another moment of history as a humanity as a whole. And individually, our sense of consciousness, we all know, it also evolves. So what these theories say is basically, and I agree with them and I agree with Professor Aureliano, is that sometimes there are a few people, maybe, well, Frankl, he mentions the, on one of book was recently published a few years ago, he mentions the myth of the Tadchin Nistarim, the few honest and just people who are here to safeguard the well-being of humanity. Well, what these authors say, it's very similar to the myth of the Tadchin Nistarim, which is basically there are a few people, doesn't matter how many, that are more conscious than other people. And these people, they are here to make us reflect and think and act to become more conscious. We can think about the leaders or the founders of great religions along history. We can think about great leaders, and I'm not talking about the bad leaders, which we criticized a few minutes ago, but the great leaders, in fact, that move people to make the difference, to change the world to a better place. So yes, I think there are three levels of, or three kinds of consciousness we must think here. First one, individual consciousness. We all evolve. We all are more conscious than we were before. Second, and I recommend reading Don Beck or Ken Wilber about that. We evolve as a humanity from one level of consciousness to another as eons are passing. And we can see how different we are since the telegraphus was created in 1844 from when the Gilgamesh Code was created about 5,000 years ago. We are totally different people because of these two moments in history, and we can talk a lot about this. So there is collective consciousness, and there are those who have a consciousness more sparkle, more evolved, more developed. I don't know what would be the correct word in English, that invite us to also evolve individually and collectively. So I would totally agree with Professor Aureliano and add these three types, we may say, of consciousness. Categories, if you prefer.
Thank you very much for the answer. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Dear Ronnie, please. And yes.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Sam, for that wonderful presentation. I'm wondering, in a practical way, given that the situation in the world today is more segregated than probably ever before in the last 60 years, certainly since the Cold War, and we're just going more and more in that direction. So this idea of one humanity and a consciousness that crosses cultures, which very much is part of what Franco was saying. I wonder what Franco would have said, would have done today. Now, I'm saying this is a very theoretical question here, but what do you think Franco would have said today, given this time? Franco, by the way, was very accustomed to going against the grain. He was going against the grain after the war, where he stayed in Vienna, where many people said, "Why don't you leave Vienna?" after what happened to his family and Jews in the Holocaust. But he stayed on. Franco was really criticized by many of the psychologists, and during his time for many years. So he was not he was used to being criticized as being different. But I wonder today, if Franco were alive today, what would he say? Would he be saying the things he said 30, 40 years ago? Or would he have another message that would be more akin to what's going on today with all the right-wing governments and what's going on in the world? That's a question for you, Sam.
Well, first of all, Nino, when you asked me, you invited me, you never said that were going to be difficult questions. Well, I don't know what Frankl would have said. My wife is a historian, and she usually says, there's no, and I'm a sci-fi fan, and she says there are no what ifs in history. It is what it is. So what I think Pankel would have said is something very coherent to what he thought before, but probably with some differences. And I honestly don't think the problem is the, well, you asked. I don't think the problem, Ronnie, is the right wing. I think the problem is the extreme right wing, which is as bad as the extreme left wing. And we cannot forget all extremisms. The ism is the problem, okay? And there are good people in both sides. If you don't like Trump, this example probably is a good one for you guys. There was an article in the New York Times on the last 6 months of Donald Trump's first presidency that there were people saying there are good people here. Don't you worry. We are trying our best to keep the nation organized and good and working. So as Frankel would have said, there are good people and bad people on both sides, on all sides, on everywhere. So the problem, in my opinion, is the isms. Frankel has one thing that always called my attention, which is not the fact that he stayed in Vienna. Staying in Vienna for me is like asking an Ukrainian, why don't you leave Ukraine? Or a Palestinian, why don't you leave Palestine? Staying in Vienna is not the question for me. For me, the most interesting question is his sort of defense of the capo. And he said, basically, in a situation like that one, that the capo was in, are you totally conscious? Are you certain that you would have chosen a different path? It's easy to judge others. We logotherapists, we love the two drawings by Frankel of the cylinder and the cube, and we analyze it and everything. But there's one fact that I think sometimes we forget on the subtext of that image. The first law, we have the cylinder, and it projects a shadow, which is a square, and another shadow that is a circle. And we say, well, square and circle are not the same thing. Square and circle are not the cylinder. But there's one little detail that we have to remember. What Frankel, in fact, is saying, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, is that also, in the light of a certain situation, all humans, they show a shadow. The shadow is not the human. The shadow is the action. And the action is not necessarily the human being, tridimensional, that is doing that shadow, that's projecting that shadow in that situation. Are you sure that in the same circumstance you have projected a different shadow? So what he's saying, in my opinion, here, all this to come to this conclusion, what he's saying, in my opinion, is do not judge the tridimensional being by the bidimensional shadow. Okay, this is one point. The other point is sometimes I think I agree with you, Ronnie. Sometimes I think I disagree with you on this. Is the world more united or more separated before? First, it's a normal process. When we do physical exercise, our muscles, they tend to break in order to come together stronger. That's a natural thing. Okay, this happens in many different places in the cosmos. So it's needed to be more separated to get better united. But also, if we observe the movements of the extreme right, if we observe the movements of the extreme right, they say no to globalism, no to federalization, keep the national ideas together, ignore diversity. They keep saying those things, and yet they have thousands and thousands and thousands of meetings exchanging their ideas together. So Milei and Trump defend the same things for Argentina and US. And God knows what will happen to Germany and maybe Portugal very soon, and even Canada and France. But they get together and they make their own kind of unity. It's a good one, it's a bad one. I'm not going to get into that. But the thing is, even the most egregious people, they know they need to come together. They know that it is our nature to be united. I don't know if it's making any sense what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, good. It's a long discussion, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you very much. And another question from another difficult question, maybe from Memduh Hosmert. Please, dear colleague.
I'm trying to formulate the question, but first of all, when it comes to football, I have one nation, although I'm Turkish. I'm a fan of Brazilian national team. So I at least prove it to myself when Turkey played with Brazil in one World Cup. I really supported Brazil because in my childhood, they were, at least in my childhood, they were playing for the spirit of the game. So as a child, I conceived this, and I really supported Brazil. So what I would like to more comment. Although we are speaking about monanthropism, until now, I haven't seen none of us mention about the 10 theses of the person, of Frankl's famous and he taught this for more than years in Vienna Medical School. I think that was based on Max Scheller's anthropology. We cannot define what is humanity, but at least we can define the qualities. And Sam's very powerful rhetoric remind me the second category, that the person is insoluble. The person is not only individual, indivisium, but if the person with the other higher ordinance, he is not ascending, he is descending. I'm just literally taking it from. I think phenomenology, Edmund Husserl did a great job. Yesterday, I listened Professor Aurelio because Husserl really tried to make the science of consciousness through phenomenology. And Max Scheler is one of the first implementers of it, and he tries to use Edmund Husserl and try to phenomenologically describe humans of human. I think these are very precious, and Frankl's body of knowledge is rising on these great people. That's what this very strong speech that I totally agree reminded me. Thank you. I wanted to just share this.
Can I mention
you.
a few points, or are we out of time? Anybody?
Yes, please, in short.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you very much for your talk. So much to discuss. I think we need another conference just based on that. I just want to make a few points, which are my opinion, with regards to why Frankl stayed in Austria. Why not? He had built his life there. It was his country, and to leave would be basically staying was showing two fingers to the Nazis who were trying to eliminate him. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and I see a lot in the two of them. Second of all, with regards to what would he say today, I think he'd say exactly the same as what he said then. On YouTube it's in German. That's the only problem. Where he gives there was a rally or a gathering, and he basically gives his opinion of how exactly what you brought up, how people should behave with the leadership. You can't get more far right than the Nazis. So again, you know, there's two things that run through everything that you can discuss about any subject. It boils down to two things, in my opinion. One is the logotherapeutic approach, which we all agree is the way forward. And second of all is human nature. Human nature has not adapted to where we are in society today. It's a great conflict. We haven't adapted to the expectations that we have today. And just one more thing. I believe that we need the unity of our humanity, but to also keep our uniqueness of ourselves and uniqueness of our tribe as in religion and culture. And instead of, and to use the logotherapeutic approach, instead of you're different, therefore you're a threat to me, which is human nature. You're different. That's really interesting. What can I learn about you? Okay, and I've seen that here with, got some great personal examples, which we don't have time to share, but it's really the only way. And it's done on the ground, one-on-one. If you have an opportunity to talk to a group, you talk to a group. It's like ants. We need to get together because one ant by himself can't lift a leaf, but they get their group of ants and they can lift big leaves. It's probably not a great analogy, but anyway, that's what I wanted.
It's a great one.
Thank you very much. It was amazing final
Thank you, Aviva.
comment. And thank you very much again, Sam, for your very powerful speech. We stole some time from our next speaker. We apologize, but it was a really meaningful discussion. So let me present you Samuele Fradella, Dr. Samuele Fradella. He graduated in philosophy, works as soft skills and humor trainer, professional counselor, and member of the board of Franklin Association of Logotherapy and Existential Analysis. And so, please, welcome.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Nino, for the presentation and for the opportunity, and good evening to you all. So I anticipate that probably what I'm starting to talk about is not really aligned with most of consideration that you have made about human nature, and in particular consideration regarding the capacity of hate that Sam speak about, and the capacity of violence. No? But I don't want to say more. I start. And I want to say to you why I chose this topic, because violence is a very common subject in journal articles, media production in general, and above all is a significant factor in historical change. At the same time, however, it is not a particularly popular concept in the field of logotherapy, in my opinion. This is because, on one hand, fortunately, we are accustomed to focus on the capabilities of the human spirit, the strength of the will, and the profound human potential to find meaning in life. And this focus is undoubtedly a beautiful one. It is the brighter side of the story, so to speak. On the other hand, we cannot fully comprehend what happens to humanity today, or indeed at any time, if we do not consider violence as one of the driving forces of human action, or at least as an essential human urge, as an essential human impulse. If we exclude violence as part of human nature, we fail to understand the world around us. Wars, large and small conflicts, homicides, acts of disrespect, and the countless other ways. Unfortunately, people used to harm and attack one another. In the field of logotherapy, we typically address current problems reminded by focuses on the conscious that was reminded earlier. which, as you know, Frankl identifies as the organ of meaning, so a mechanism that can discover and actualize meaning in the world. We also emphasize the scope of values, because every meaning is inherently connected to a value. And what does Frankl tell us about values? We can outline two key perspectives introduced by Frankl. The first is historical. In fact, Frankl suggests that values are a sort of synthetic result of the accumulation of meanings realized by people throughout history. For example, the value of friendship emerges from the collective acts of friendliness exhibited by individuals within their communities. This is a phylogenetic view of values, even though, like all such reconstruction, it involves a certain circularity, because values are formed through value-driven action, and we, in turn, are motivated to act in ways aligned with these values we have been taught and educated. This historical perspective is linked to a second, more foundational one. Why does the hypothetical first person behave in a friendly way toward another? According to Frankl, this ethical experience reveals the presence of the spiritual unconscious, which grasps the value of friendship in a pre-moral and pre-logical manner. Here, Husserl is central, for example. This perspective harmonizes with both ontological and ontogenetic view, offering insights into the profound nature of humanity and explaining phenomena such as the behavior of infants who demonstrate value-oriented actions without conscious rationality, without a rational knowledge of teaching or teaching about the values. And regarding the values, you may recall that Frankl was an admirer, a follower without Instagram, so to speak, of Max Scheler, and his idea of a hierarchical order of values. While Scheler did not finalize an ultimate ranking of values, he consistently placed religious values, those related to holiness and sacredness, at the top. And this brings us to the topic of violence. I want to use as a link one of the most important thinker of the last century, that is René Girard. In fact, René Girard's anthropological studies reveal a deep connection between sacredness and violence. Let me briefly explain his theory. Girard introduces the concept of mimetic desire. He argues that from birth, humans are inherently mimetic. We imitate others. From the outset, we identify models to emulate, adopting not only their behaviors, but also their desires. For instance, a baby whose mother is the model will mirror her desires, craving the things she values, objects, peoples, or ideals, and values themselves. And at these levels, all seems well. But this mechanism can lead to problems. A double bind, which, as you know, was theorized for the first time by Gregory Bateson, can develop between the imitator and the model. A double bind arises when a message and its meta message, so the message is about the message, conflict. For example, the sentence "be spontaneous" creates an impossible situation for the communication, because responding to the command negates spontaneity, but refusing to follow it contradicts the instruction. Girard uses the concept to explain how the model both invites and forbids imitation. Look at my beautiful car, implying get one for yourself, but also don't get it. I alone should have it. This paradox sparks rivalry, the crux of mimetic desire, of this double binding imitation. So as the imitator and the model become rivals, they mirror each other's desires, emotions, and actions, transforming into mimetic doubles. They share desire fuels, escalating violence as they strive to differentiate themselves, So they are equal, but they try to differentiate because they don't want to be equal. This rivalry spreads, with others imitating the original rivals' their desires, leading to widespread polarization and ultimately a mimetic crisis. In a mimetic crisis that it is the apex of rivalry and violence, there is only one resolution: identifying a scapegoat. According to Girard, the scapegoat often is chosen for their perceived otherness, and they bear the collective aggression. When the scapegoat is killed, the violence disappears. This act links violence and sacredness, because the scapegoat, perceived at the source of peace, becomes sacred. Girard suggests this mechanism underpins all cultures and religions from the start, with rituals and prohibition which are conceived both to remember, to remind the original violence, and to regulate mimetic desire and prevent crisis. Okay, they don't want it happens again. So how can we escape violence? Girard says that the Gospels offer a model. And I want to clarify that I'm not doing a confessional or religious statement. I'm not Catholic and I'm not Christian at all, so I'm following the author. Considering the story in particular of the woman caught in adultery. You know that in the Gospel of John, he told us that the Pharisees, appealing to Moses' law, demand her punishment of the woman caught in adultery. Jesus disrupts the conflict by stooping to write in the dust, an act that diffuses tensions. Then he declares the famous statement, "Let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." His words confront the crowd with their own inner violence, leading them to disperse without harm. What Jesus is doing in this context is changing the behavior of the man without referring to a moral law, a general precept, that's what they were doing, claiming the Moses law, or a value, such as the dignity of life, for example, they would have to respect. On the contrary, it shows a path away from violence, confronting the shared capacity and belonging to violence within us all. So maybe you are asking yourself, how can we connect these elements with the practice of logotherapy? I think that we can put in this way. To realize a meaning in our life, a life worth meaning, we need to be self-transcendent, as you know. We need to address something outside ourselves in the world, loving the person or dedicating to a cause. But at the same time, as well as people around the woman caught in adultery, we need to be led to know our darkest part, our violence. I remember that before, earlier, Cyrous said we are not born to hate, we learn to hate. Really, I don't agree exactly, because we don't need to learn to hate, because we have the capacity to hate because of our mimetic mimetic disposition from the birth. If we don't if we don't embrace this darkest part, this violent part, we will believe that conflicts are always someone else's fault, while we are involved every time. Even when we are sure we are following the right rule or the highest value we know in that moment. For example, I know that the Caucasian Association is very close to this topic, and I want to provoke in a positive way in this sense, making this question about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Are we certain it is purely a case of oppressor versus oppressed? While Russia's invasion is undeniable, could action by Ukraine, maybe with NATO, have contributed to the situation? This is not a political statement or analysis, obviously, no? But an invitation to reflect on conflict through the lens of shared human violence. Do you think recognizing our inner violence might be the first step toward resolution? Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you very much. Yes, it definitely is the question to reflect on. Thank you very much. Please, I invite you. Yes, DSM, please. Questions? Difficult questions?
I was just clapping.
If you want to try to answer, I'm happy about it.
I have a comment. I'm not as sophisticated in the logotherapy realm, but learning. And the combining a number of the presentations, it seems like, you know, we can look at sort of the ripple effect of individuals having an impact on humanity. But really what we're seeing is, as each of the SAMs pointed out, a kind of group neurosis. And what this SAM sort of pointed out is that if we become aware of our violence, it sort of taps into our conscience, you know, of what is actually right. But there's a kind of receptivity when there's xenophobia and nationalism, a kind of receptivity for most people that it's just, it doesn't feel right. But the fear and the violence in us perhaps makes us align along societal kinds of polarization. Where the opportunity is, it seems like, is to, you know, have a way collectively, when there is so much violence and nationalism, to see that this is the opportunity to tap into a heightened receptivity that it's not right. At a global level, I don't know exactly how to do that collectively, but at a global level, people are very receptive, perhaps now more than we realize. Instead of nihilistically looking at it as everyone's so polarized, isn't it terrible, and we haven't evolved as a society, we might, with Franklian ideas and thinking of logotherapy, say this is the perfect time. Everyone is receptive to something not right. And can we somehow harness this reality to make people aware that there's a kind of global neurosis? And is there a way to use logotherapeutic techniques at a societal levels in order to help people sort of maybe sort of paradoxical intention, but at a societal level, to sort of somehow diffuse it and sort of create a more global consciousness? I know that sounds grandiose, but it seems like that's the purpose of this kind of meeting, is to say, what can we do at a global level, not just the ripple effect of one person at a time, which is important in a long-term standpoint, but this maybe is the perfect time to address it at a more global level.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah, the importance of the scale, is crucial, because if we consider the individual or the global level, it's very different the way we are conducted to answer to it. But at the same time, I think that we can observe both at the individual and the global level, which are the mechanisms that we share. And both of the mechanisms we have described are real. The mechanism of the violence, because I don't need to learn to hate someone, because it's normal that it happens. Think about the babies, no? It's very simple, no? Babies are playing, and there is at one time a baby say, "This is mine," okay, and the other baby desires that object, and they become rivals, and the other baby maybe are imitating this mechanism, and they became rivals each other. And this is spread out until they maybe they forgot the real object they desire, and only the conflict remains. Okay, so this is the same kind of movement that happens to nations sometimes. No? So it's clear that if we want to step outside the conflict, we need to have a value that is a guidepost, that is a polar, a light, okay, a polar light that we follow. But at the same time, if we want to exclude this primary violence, this primary mechanism that is in ourselves, we can't understand how to communicate with each other. And we think that we are in the right part and they are in the wrong part because they are violent, not us. Okay, it's their problem, not mine, not our. This is the point that I want to make, to point out. Okay, and I think that if in a global, hypothetical, global table, we sit and we face the problem in this perspective, we have more chance to find a resolution, a common resolution.
I'd like to refer to 2 points. One is what you mentioned about the babies. It's basically babies act and react or are controlled by the id. It's later on that they're taught the societal norms, but also to develop the conscience and the responsibility. Second of all, in response to what Jeffrey said, when I and others have spoken about, the individual having the effect on other individuals in a small way, but there's also the possibility to, as an individual, with our very small actions, to have a global reaction. Just one example I can think of is Rosa Parks. Very simple woman, powerless, who said, no, I will not sit at the back of the bus, and today, if you say Rosa Parks, you think of a big, sorry, I'm not very eloquent, a big effect and a big change. The suffragettes also, single women got together and look at the big change that was created. So we can make small changes in our family, in our friends, in our community, but also if we can make it in a much larger scale.
Okay, I want to answer to the first part, the parts of the babies, but your consideration about Rosa Parks is really interesting. The unconscious of the baby, it's right. The baby is unconscious in the moment he realized that mechanism, he put in action that mechanism, but at the same time, the same thing happens to adults. Okay, the example I have described about the car, I have a very beautiful car, and the message implied is get another one for you. Okay, it's the normal, typical mechanism that marketing uses to sell products, and the reason marketing function works very well is that it is the normal mechanism people are not really so conscious about. Okay, but I agree with you that it is fundamental to be conscious about that. In fact, we are here exactly for that, not because to share this and to be conscious about that. But this is not the typical situation. If it would be, it would not happen what marketing works for every day. Okay, because normally we are always involved in this kind of situation where there is a model and we follow the model, and the model is always is also a positive model. No, if I am a baby and my mother is a model, it is necessary, because if I need to find someone who transmit me values, ideas, and perspectives on words, it is fundamental. But at the same time, I am exposed to bad models. And what makes the difference is exactly to be conscious about that. So I agree with you with the direction, but we can think that we are not under this pressure and under this mechanism of the models, because imitating is unavoidable. Okay. Thank
I
you.
was trying to be nice.
You were.
And so it was just the babies, not the adults. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Ronnie, please.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to understand, make sure I understood what you said. So I understood you said that violence is part of everyone and everyone in society. Okay. Do you not believe that we can teach our children and ourselves to become less violent at the nuclear level right from the beginning? Because it's true that violence is everywhere and it's easy to do, and it's even in the marketing example now, there is some violence in it and so on and so forth. But is it not possible to start a different way of thinking from day one when the child comes into the world and cultivates that? And I would say, I would suggest that even in Frankel's estimation of what is conscience, which is a difficult concept to understand, I think, there is a message of nonviolence, although he didn't use that word that much. So I'm wondering, do you think it's possible to do it in such a way? And what is the right approach in a few words?
Yeah, sure. I think it's possible, and I think we have to do it. Okay, we have to start from the education of the babies and to set it to put them on the on the peace path. But at the same time, what I want to point out with this presentation was that we cannot do it if we think that the violence is the problem of someone else. Okay, if I see at my son and I say, okay, you are not a violent child, okay, you are a good child. If I transmit you good values, you will be good. Okay, this for me is a little misleading, because you are not a good or bad child until you choose for it. Okay, but you need to choose, because you are always potentially violent, always, because this is part of your nature, and this is the part that is unavoidable. For example, on the political ground, the human rights, okay, are often presented as part of the human nature. Okay, so you are human, so you have dignity. You are human, so you pay respect, and you are the others may pay respect to you, etc. But we need to affirm human rights, okay, and I agree with that, because we are violent. we need the human right as a shield for our inner violence. If inner violence doesn't exist, we don't need the human rights. We don't need to write it on a paper and share it with all the other countries and say, hey, sign it, it is important. But why is it important? Because if you don't sign it, I'm not sure you don't use your violence. So I hope I have answered to you.
Thank you.
May I tell a small replic here? It's like if we live more consciously, we don't need moral.
No, can you repeat, please?
If we live more consciously, we don't need moral.
No, we need to moral, but at the same, we have to construct a moral view. Okay, we need to share values in a conscious and declared way. But at the same time, it is important to know which is the basis of this moral view. We have a ground that is a good ground, but we have a part of this ground that is not a good ground. It is a violent ground. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Sam, please.
Trying to organize my thoughts. Okay, I'm trying to understand, to learn from your perspective, Samuele. Isn't that a bit what Professor Aureliano had spoken before, that being aware, being conscious is important. So it's not about saying that, for instance, Declaration of Human Rights, it's not because we are bad, violent, or whatever term we decide to use, but because we have to keep remembering that we are good. That's one question. And the other one is, you said that we are open to both sides of the equation. We're not necessarily born good or born evil. We are predisposed to both ways, to both paths. But you always explained through terms like mimetic or example, model. You use these two words. Isn't that the concept of learning? So I just want to understand your perspective. And I want to say I'm enjoying it, even though it's not the same as mine. Okay, I'm enjoying very much. Thank you.
Okay, we share the name, so it is a good starting point. No, thank you for your questions. Yeah, we need to remember we are good, okay, but not in an ontological way, okay. This is the difference, I think, in the presentation of the problem. We are good if we choose it. And this is very consistent with Frank's view, no? When I don't remember who said that before, but someone remind that Frank said that are, no, maybe you, Sam, you said that there are bad people, no, or good people. I remember the speech of Frank where he said there are two only races, no, the races of good people and the race of bad people, and
honest and be dishonest.
Honest and dishonest. Thank you, Aureliano. And which is the difference between these two races? The choice. This is the difference. They are not inherently good because they are born in that way and it is unchangeable. No, they are born and they have two possibilities: to be good or to be bad. But what's the difference is on one end the education, right? But on the other end there is the will, and the will is the choice. Because if you think about it, if there is no the possibility to be bad, at the same time the will is it disappears. Okay, the will has no room for that, because what do you choose if you can choose to be bad or to be good? No, you need that, and you need to be learned to be in a way or in another for the same reason, because you have both in yourself and you need to choose. And the model and the part of the mimetic desire is totally unavoidable. We have to choose our model. When we are conscious about this, we need to choose our model, and to choose which is the model that props the values are good for us and good for all the people. No? This is the ethical problem that is related to the ontological basis. I don't know if I answered to you. I hope.
Thanks once again. Yeah,
Grazie,
yes.
Samuele.
Thank you too.
Yes, Dr. Aureliano, my apologies, Dr. Memduh, please, and then you.
Thank you for this nice speech. As far as I can conceive, you stress on violence. So do you see violence as the antithesis of meaning, let me say, the good, the truth, the beauty? Because what I recalled Hannah Arendt's perfect book, Banality of Evil. So she was arguing that I can be a very decently do what going to my work like a bureaucrat, doing whatever been told, but I could be carrying lots of buckets of evil, bad thing to something very big. So if you answer this, I will appreciate.
Oh yeah, thank you, Mamdut. I think it's very appropriate this referring to Hannah Arendt, because the banality of evil is exactly the the idea that you don't need to think about be unmoral or unethical to be unmoral or unethical. Also, the problem is that you don't think. Okay, the banality of evil is the banality of men under the Nazism in particular, but under every circumstance of that kind, that are not led to think, to use their critical reason to diversify, to recognize the good and the bad. And this is the real problem. They are unconscious and they follow the stream. No? And if the stream is the stream of Nazism, it's okay. We follow the stream. What's the problem? And with this reasoning or unreasoning, it happens what happened, that unfortunately. And so, yeah, it's very precisely to this point. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Dr. Aureliano, please.
Yes, I would like to just make a comment on freedom. The kind of freedom that Viktor Frankl in logotherapy used to make to express and also put in practice in clinical psychology is made by an example of two twins brothers. These two twins brothers, they have got two parents, both of them criminals. And both parents, they got other parents, criminals. So the twin brothers, they got four grandparents, twin criminals, two parents criminals. So theoretically speaking, can become criminal, and the other one can become criminologist. So the freedom is based on the awareness, on the consciousness that we have, on one hand, predispositions. On the other hand, we can make a choice of the kind of use that we can have about this predisposition. So he's still talking, I mean, the same concept of freedom I use, it is good for patients in front of diagnosis, and also in talking about violence in other contexts. So once again, I think that we should be aware and conscious of predispositions or social conditions that push us towards a direction. But because we have a conscious, we are not passive object pushed by one orientation. Because of the conscious, we can make a choice. So this is one comment I would like to make, to enrich this very important, very good discussion. Thank you. Just that.
Thank you.
I just want to say that what you said, I was just going to say, but in not as impressive sounding, that I think good and evil is a bit more complex in than choice. Like you say with the twins, you can have the brothers brought up in a household of addicts. One becomes an addict, one is staunchly against it. I think it's very much a mixture of nature, which is conscience, and nurture, which is what you learn. And also, the same environment will affect the nature, the conscience differently. And also, Frankl also shows in his books, good people can do evil things. evil people can do good things. You know, you can be a good person, but you make a mistake, or you have to do something to your advantage that hurts someone else. It's a bad act. It's a lot more complex. And also with regards to violence, I don't believe that we as humans are violent. I believe the norm, yeah, there are obviously the people who are violent, but also a lot of it, let's say on the global level, is very much I'm under threat. You're threatening me. I need to protect myself. So I think all of us here, God forbid, our family were threatened. We're very peaceful, loving people. But if our family was threatened, we could do violence. I know I would, because that is to protect my loved ones. But then you put again in the global scale of countries. Yeah, I want to live at peace. But if you look at all of the tribes who are very peaceful, or the indigenous people, they were taken over by people who were willing to be violent, who had bigger firepower. So while I agree that one needs to follow the path of peace and humanity, one also needs the ability to protect oneself. And again, when you take it from the individual to the global, there are problems, because even the nations that say, yeah, we're going to be peaceful, they've got their arms hidden because they need to protect themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, this is a big political and social problem, no? Yeah, you're right. It's more complicated because neither the criminal nor the criminologists, to the example of Frank, are free from their violence. So even if we say that the criminologist is a good people, okay, he is not free from doing bad things, because the violence is always within him. And at the same time, you said, maybe I'm a good people in general, I make good choices, but maybe I have to protect my loved ones, and so I need to use violence against someone else that is threatening me. And this is a big ethical problem. Probably the only difference between a good people and a bad people in this sense, in this action, is that the good people, the good person, knows that he is not imitating the bad people. He is not responding to his desire to be a rival, no, but he's only protecting the loved ones. And after that, he stopped it. And this is probably the difference that yeah, allow you not to spread the conflicts and not to make it to put it at a higher level. But
It's the intention and the conscience behind the violent act, the aggressive act. Yeah, is what is
exactly.
It's also interesting with psychopaths, because you have psychopaths who psychopaths don't have emotion; they don't really care about anyone. But then you can have, again, I forgot what the two terms were. We can say the good and the conscience, and without the conscience. So you have one who channels his violence into boxing and stuff. And I read about it, and becomes a detective with a 97% success rate because he doesn't have emotions. He doesn't care about the people, but he's doing good. But he doesn't care that he's doing good. He has a wife and children. He doesn't love them, but he knows he has to do certain things to elicit a response in them to get what he wants. And then you've got the other one who does what he can to hurt people and doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thanks.
Thanks a lot all for this nice discussion. Yes, I think that the main battlefield is inside our heart. So we all have to start from ourselves, from that micro changes, and also choosing to be good and to do good things. And then hopefully everything will change globally for good. Thank you very much, dear Samuele, for your presentation. Thank you all participants for your comments, for your thoughts. Now we will have 10 minutes break, and then we will continue our discussion and our conference. Thanks a lot. See you.
See you. I greet you all. Unfortunately, I have to leave. Bye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Thank you,
It's very
Samuel.
thought-provoking.
You.
Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you.
Bye.
So we're here to continue, and my pleasure and honor is to invite our next participant, our honored participant. It's licensed psychologist in Brazil, licensed psychology associate in Washington, D.C., a PhD, clinical psychologist at University of São Paulo, master of clinical psychology, specialist in existential analysis and logotherapy from Catholic University, director at large at the International Council of Psychologists, co-founder of the Institute of Applied Psychology, and also editor at Busca Sentido. And his topic is Fear and Radicalization in 2025, the quest for meaning in a changing world. Elison, Santos, please.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here, to see so many friendly faces, good friends around the world. So happy to be here with all of you. I start talking about this, right? About if in clinical psychology, we have to have an idea what it is to be a healthy human person, right? A healthy human being in order to treat our patients. And I think that Viktor Frankl was a master in providing this idea to each one of us. I remember when I was finishing my training in as a psychologist, and the main ideas that I had about the human being were from psychoanalysis and CBT. And when I got to understand Viktor Frankl's and I was introduced to his ideas, then I could understand better what it is to be a healthy human being. And that's the idea for us to treat our patients. Otherwise, we can not help them to become what they really are. What is what Viktor Frankl tells us, that it is the motto of what should be the motto of any psychotherapy, right? That it is to help the patient to become what he or she really is. And in that sense, talking about society and group, we should have an idea of what it is to be a healthy group, a healthy society. We can start maybe talking about ourselves here, right? Maybe we are here, we're not perfect, of course, and we know that we have problems in the logotherapeutic community around the world and in our countries and in our cities. But at least there is something that unite us, that is this curiosity, right? We can be sometimes skeptical about what is true, what is not, what is the way, what is the right theory, what is the right perspective to approach to this or that problem. But we are here to listen, right? We come together, we go to the university, we talk to our students, we share our curiosities, our questions. We hope to be honest in our answers, in our conversations. And that may be what is at least a little of the traits, of the signs of what it is to be a healthy society, a healthy group. So I want to start talking about some of the clues that I think we can talk today, that we can take from Viktor Frankl's theory. I'd like to share here something that I prepared for this dialogue with you. Okay. Are you all seeing my screen now? The fear and radicalization, yes?
Yes.
Can you see it well? Okay, I'll try to do the way it is now then, because I think it's difficult to do any other way. So that's the idea. How can we understand this society today, right? When we have a lot of theories that we can talk about a lot of things today, and as I was preparing for that, I was thinking about a lot of other things, but I will try to summarize some of my thoughts. So, and many of our colleagues have talked about the situation in the world today, right? What we have here. So we have some conflicts around the world, and I would like to introduce some more thoughts about the pathologies of the zeitgeist that Viktor Frankl talks about, and how can we understand them today in our world today? How can we use this theory to analyze what is going on in our society? And the idea is that even Viktor Frankl spoke, when they spoke about the pathologies, he was speaking about the fear, how fear is behind these pathologies. And we know that fear is behind a lot of other pathologies, right? But let's try to understand this scenario with these ideas. So what Frankl talks about the pathologies of the zeitgeist, he uses at least these four topics, right? The fatalism, that it is, well, nothing's gonna be good, right? So we are here, and well, you know what happened, what is happening in the world. So there's no room for us to do anything good because we all gonna die, right? I myself, I have been researching about suicide prevention and how logotherapy can help us to help our patients to prevent suicide. And working with university students, once I had one student that one of the things that she said was that humanity should be annihilated, right? So should be finished, right? We should extinguish humanity because we are not good. And this is one of the ideas that I delved into that, asking her where these ideas came from. And she said that there are a lot of communities in social media talking about that, right? This idea, well, we are not good, humanity is not good, so why are we here just destroying this planet and destroying nature and doing all of these things that are very bad? And we see this, of course, in the youth, because they are growing up in a society that they didn't create. They are here taking this boat that we presented to them and the older generations as well, and it seems that it's not good, and this can lead to fatalism, right? This idea that, well, we should die, right? We should not be here. And the other thing that can be led to from fear is also the fanaticism. And the fanaticism is that the idea that, well, if you are afraid and you think that life has no meaning, so you have to adhere to one idea, to one ideology, and you have to grasp that idea in a way that it is the whole true, and this is the only answer for the problems that you have, or the problems that the other people have, or the problems that the society has. So that's the idea. Then you become a fanatic, right? A radical person, individual. So this radicalization, and as we know, as we grow up as humans, since we are kids, right, we learn how to deal with differences. It's not a given thing, right? We have to learn about that. So since we see the babies and the kids, the young kids, we see how they suffer very much to when they have to accept their brothers, their siblings, right? When they have to accept their friends or their differences when they are not the honor of the truth, right? So we could also think in a way that what we see as fanaticism today, we see these very immature human beings, right, that somehow didn't learn how to understand this reality that we are not perfect, we're not honors of the truth, and we live in this world where we have to share this world with billions of other people, and in a way to understand that is to accept that we're different, and how can we deal with these differences. The provisional attitudes, they are very similar to fatalism in a way that, well, we are not going to take action now. Why should we do it now? Because things are so bad. Let's enjoy the day. Let's seize the day. Let carpe diem, and let other people care about it. Let other people do something about it. Let the psychologists take care of these. Let the government take care of it. My vote doesn't count, right? Because I am one in 300 million people. Why should I care? I don't care, right? So let other people do it. And as we know, these types of pathologies that Viktor Frankl pointed out, they are very related to the conformism and also to the totalitarianism, right? So these if you don't do what you have to do as an individual, as a person that is irreparable, so there's nobody like you, there's no one like you. If you don't do what you have to do, you will do what other people do, or you will do what other people tell you to do. And there is where we see collectivism in the perspective of Viktor Frankl. Of course, that each one of these terminologies, you will find other explanations for them, but we're trying to understand here at least a summarization of what Viktor Frankl talks about it. And in collectivism, we will see that each group has to have an enemy. And so if you are a fanatic, if you are very insecure, if you lack self-confidence because you're not finding the meaning in your life, so the tendency, the proclivity is that you will adapt to a group, and these groups are usually also radical. And the more radical is the group, bigger is the chance that this group will have the power. And for this group to have the power, it has to demonize the other groups. Why? Because in that way, you will generate more and more fear. So that's what we have today. It's part of what's happening in our society today with the advance of technology, social media, the internet. Now it's easier to scare people. It's easier to manipulate people's fear around the world. And some ideas get to be allied with other ideas, with other groups. And then we have not just a national fear, not just a national machine promoting fear in the nation. We have an international machine that works together to promote fear. And you see the campaigns, the electoral campaigns around the world, they are going the same direction. Not the direction of promoting good ideas, but the direction of promoting fear of the other group. So this is fatalism, fanaticism, provisional attitudes, collectivism. Of course, there are other things that Viktor Frankl speak about. We can delve into that in our studies. Part of what I want to try to invite you to think about is how can we understand this fear as the catalyst for radicalization, as a fuel for polarization and manipulation. So if we go to the core of the problem, then we can do something about it as logotherapists. So we have this global context, and many of you already spoke about that, and I don't need to go deeper in that, right? We have these conflicts, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Palestine. We have many other conflicts around the world that unfortunately don't get so much attention as these ones, but we always have, unfortunately. We have these rising geopolitical tensions now that is very, very serious, right? So I'm here in the United States, so we hear these things here, and we know that there's a very worrying tension between the United States, China, Russia, big players in the international scenario, and many others, right? And NATO and the BRICS. So what is going on there, right? With these leaders, what they are playing, how are they manipulating their people, right? Their nations. And we, as psychologists, we can't just look to the leaders and to the nation movements. We have to look to the people, right? Well, what are the people doing there, right? As I try to do with knowing people, our colleagues from Ukraine, our colleagues from Palestine, from Israel, where our dear Batia Yaniger is here with us, and what's going on, right? How is Batia feeling there? How are their patients there, and the patients of our friends from the Moscow Institute of Psychoanalysis in Russia, Svetlana and other colleagues? What are the people feeling? And I imagine that what people are feeling, the normal people, the honest people, this decent race that Viktor Frankl talks about, which is the majority, and I believe that. So they are feeling and they are thinking mostly like what we are feeling and we are thinking. So let's think about that. How does fear exacerbate existential crisis? How does it happen? How does fear exacerbate existential crisis? There's another thing that I'd like to talk to you, which is the triads of logotherapy. So one of the triads is the tragic triad. So we have suffering, guilt, and death. And Viktor Frankl talks about that in a way that they are good, right? Because they help us to understand the meaning of life. So it opens the possibility to the tragic optimism, to reaffirm the meaning of life despite suffering, guilt, or death, right? But Frankl will also talk about the negative tragic triad, that is the mass neurosis. And the mass neurosis, they are caused by the frustration in the will to meaning. People tend to escape from themselves. So where do they go? Addiction, depression, and aggression. And aggression in terms of violence. So addiction, depression, and violence. So now we can understand that there is fear. There is this fear that is a catalyst for the many problems, and there is also this cause, the frustration and the will to meaning. If I don't find meaning in my life, I can get into addiction, I can get into depression, I can get into violence. And we know how much violence we have nowadays, not just in the international conflicts, but online, in the internet. So I was reading right before our talk now that 85% of women around the world have seen violence online. It's a lot, right? And 35% have suffered violence around the world. So one thing, what is the difference between skepticism and cynicism? Well, skepticism is a doubt, right? You doubt the truth and you ask and you question it. Well, what is that? What Viktor Frankl said, is it really a reality? Can we taken into account nowadays, or it was just for some decades ago, for the last century? How can we adapt this reality, his theory now? And the other way is, and cynicism is not just a doubt, it's a total disbelief. Yeah, Viktor Frankl said that because he wanted to protect his family. Well, Viktor Frankl said that because he wanted to make money. Or Viktor Frankl said that because this is, I remember when I was writing about friendship, and we know that Epicurus, 300 years before Christ, he was talking about friendship and how the law is not necessary when there is friendship, because the friends will respect each other, right? They will promote peace. They will do what they say they will do because they love each other. And I remember one professor in the university answering me this, but yeah, friendship, as they do in the Congress, they are very good friends, and they can make deals with one another to steal the people. Oh gosh, we don't believe anymore in friendship. We don't believe in love. When you talk about love in psychology, people always say, there's not so much things about love. It's not, we know from psychoanalysis that love is just a product of our minds and sublimation. And Frank will say, no, Frank, love is not an epiphenomenon. It's a phenomenon, a totally, essentially human phenomenon. So we know that, and we have to address this to deal with society today as logotherapists. How can we overcome that? Because if you talk to your students and they are all cynicists, you can just give up. Wow, how am I going to talk to these people? They don't believe in anything. They don't want to believe in anything. No, I think that cynicism is also a product of the negative tragic triad, because someone was frustrated in their in his or her will to meaning, and then cynicism took place. So what can we do now? That's a question for all of us. Logotherapy and the will to meaning, transcend the fear and find purpose. Fanaticism, we can promote ethical reflection and critical thinking. It's very necessary, what we're doing here. I congratulate Nino once again for this table where we can talk, we can discuss, we can reconnect our friends from other countries and learn from each other. This is so great. And that's what we have to do. And we have to understand that people want this, right? Even if they show criticism, even if they show violence, deep down, every human being wants to talk about it, wants to understand it, wants to find love, meaning in their lives. The fatalism, we have to promote hope and awareness of positive possibilities, because they are, and we know that they are there. Provisional attitude, future-oriented values and goals help our patients to understand that they have values, and how can they, as Viktor Frankl did in the concentration camps and with his patients about the future, right? Asking them about the future, about their goals, how it could prevent many of his patients from suicide, from committing suicide. And the collectivism to help our patients and our communities to understand their freedom of will, their uniqueness. It's thanks to that uniqueness that we can do our part in the world, even if we go against the group, right? The radical groups. Well, reclaim humanity, committed to over division, facilitators of meaning and resilience. Thank you so much. Sorry for taking too long.
It's absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. And again, invite you to ask questions, to reflect. Yes, please, Memdu.
Thank you, Elison. Elison is very elaborate us Frankel's collective neurosis stages. And there I really collective thinking, the collective stages, I guess, so important. But I would like to ask, according to Frankl, the collective neurosis main causes either conformist or totalitarian way of life. So in other words, not only fear or not only aggression, depression, addiction, but the existential vacuum, existential frustration, because existential vacuum is not at all a pathology according to Frankl. It is one of the human conditions. So if you can, and from this, from Elison's speech, I came to a point that we have to ignore leaders. We should become leaders. Each and every of us has the responsibility to become leaders. There I come to that point. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Mamdou. And you are right? The main cause of all of these is and how fear becomes a thing there is because of the existential vacuum, right? So the frustration of the will to many causes us the existential vacuum. And fear is part of life, right? We can be afraid, and even though we face the challenges because we find meaning. Yeah, and that's the key. And you were totally right about that, right? We can be afraid, but if there is meaning, we fight, right? But if there is no meaning, fear then become the biggest thing. And then we give up. And then we do what other people do, and we do what other people want us to do, right? So the existential vacuum is the main thing. You're totally right about that. Yeah.
They say that being brave doesn't mean that you're not afraid. Being brave is being afraid and doing it anyway. And yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry about the leadership. Not everyone has the ability to be a leader, but we can influence people who then go on to become leaders with the logotherapeutic or humanistic approach.
I think, yeah, and I think that leadership comes also from necessity, right? If you do a poll in your group and no one has the ability to be a leader, one will have to be, right? Due to it, if you see a problem and no one else sees the problem, at some point your conscience will tell you, well, tell these people, right? Point out what you would do, and there we go. Right?
And those are the best leaders, because those are the leaders from necessity and conscience without egotism.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, you get the leaders who want to be a leader for the power.
Exactly. Perfect. Yes, perfect. And I think that's what we have the most around us, right? Because we created a system where leadership is so much exalted, right? And seen as someone that is beyond or in a different level. And this is another problem of society that we see that comes from us as societies, right? How do we as people see our leaders? Oh no, he is the president, then we can't question. He's the representative, he's the senator. Well, no, it should be a service work, right? He's a servant of the people, not a more important than the people. It shouldn't be like that, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be like that, but it is, because the ones that are in power do it for power and for money. And the
Exactly.
reason they get there is because people give them money and kickbacks and everything because they want them in the position where they can use them. And then they then have to go with the majority to keep the power, to never-ending cycle, really.
And there's the importance of in logotherapy to promote community more than mass, because masses are easy to manipulate and community is not, right?
Correct.
That's great. Yeah. Well,
And
but
community is humanity. If it's small, you know the person, you care about the person, you can identify with the person. When it's a mass, it's just a mass. It's just faceless people. So you can't care about something that's an object.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
To me, Alison,
But yeah, Roy raised the hand before, and then Aureliano.
Okay.
Hello, all of you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Frankel said that when we cannot change the situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. And so the bigger the challenge, the more the fear, the bigger the opportunity. You know, we can look at it that way. And the bigger the opportunity to find ways. And that's why in my presentation, I talked about the tasks that are in front of us and the faith that can take us away from the fear.
Perfect, but yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and it's interesting when we can see solutions, and somehow these solutions that we see, they don't come the way we hope, and then we just have to readdress our perspective, right? And as you said, we can find other ways, right? And readapt, right? And see that as a challenge, that what we can do together, right? To address these changes. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Hi, Aureliano. How are you?
Hi. Well, thank you very much, Elison, for your presentation. It's nice to see you. Very nice presentation. My question is about the neurogenic neurosis. And we all know that one clinical context in which neurogenic neurosis is more evident is the ideation, suicidal ideation, or the attempted suicide, right? Can you please tell us some of your experience, your research about suicide in the clinical context, according to logotherapy? Thank you for your contribution about that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Aureliano, and thank you for the question. Yeah, you know that we have now we had the chance to publish one of our articles in the journal, right? In the not journal, the book, right, of the proceedings of logotherapy and existential analysis, proceedings of the Viktor Frankl Institute of Vienna. And there is one article that we wrote about that, exactly about how we can address logotherapy to suicide prevention. And I agree with you that most of the cases, at least the cases that I saw, and here in the University of São Paulo, and also in my private practice, we saw many students, and much of the causes of these suicide ideations, at least in youth, in university students, they are linked to existential vacuum and in many cases to neurogenic neurosis, right? In a way that it can become so chronic that the person doesn't see the possibility of meaning. And all of these pathologies that we talk about, they can be seen as symptoms, or even the negative negative tragic triad as well. And helping them with logotherapy and with the questions and with the 5 steps, we promoted 5 steps to address that, right? And one of these 5 steps is is a differential welcoming. So how we can welcome these patients in our clinic? How can we help them feel that they have this power in themselves, right? So there are a lot of cases that I write about also in another book that Pachola was also the one of the people who saw this dissertation, and the other one is help them to listen to the voice of the conscience, right? So they know what they have to do, that they know that this is not the end. We just have to help them to get to that openness, that they can listen to their voice of the conscience, right? This is very important. And to help, the other one is to help them to enhance, to broaden their cosmovision, the vision of the world. And you see many cases where Viktor Frankl talks about suicide prevention. He will talk about how he was helping these people to broaden their vision of the world, their cosmovision, right? So let's not think about here, let's think about other things with questions, with the Socratic dialogue, of course, and how to redirect your future, right? How to redirect and take the control of your life again. So these are some of the 5 steps that I promote, and then is there in the book as well. Well, I don't know if I answered your question, Aureliano, but it goes somewhere around that.
Very much so indeed. Thank you. Let us keep in touch. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, dear Elison. Thank you all for your questions. And for sure, we will have some time to reflect, to summarize our discussion of today's conference, of yesterday. But now the last speaker, but not the least, the speaker is from Costa Rica. It's Ana Luisa Guzman. She is also head of Center of Logotherapy in San Jose, Costa Rica, and her topic is Logotherapy, a way to humanize processes in complex times and technological changes. So, until we are waiting a couple of minutes, our speaker to join us. So let's take some time and share and summarize our ideas about the whole conference. Was it useful or not? Should it be annual or not? What do you think? Because your thoughts are very important. Should we move forward in this direction or maybe not? It is right way or not? So please. Yes, please. Dr. Kanda.
Yes, thank you very much. This was very important initiative, and I'm very thankful that you took it. I'm not sure if going forward, one thing I wanted to ask was if we could share emails, because I guess you might have the email of everyone. We could have some kind of conversation through email as well, because they've been different presentation. Definitely one would like to follow up with some of the presenters. So that is one thing I thought I should ask. Thank you.
Dr. Kanda, thank you very much. Yes, I think with the permission of our speakers, we can share the presentations, but what goes to sharing contact details of participants, I think we need to ask all participants if they are okay to share their contact details. So it's personal, and I have to ask each and everyone about that. And also I have to announce, I need to announce that we will send you the certificates of participation. So thank you very much once again for being with us, each and everyone, dear speakers and dear participants. So that's it from my side. Did I answer your question, Dr. Kanda? Yes, please.
Yeah, yes, I understand you need consent, you need permission for those to share. But the other thing I wanted is to find a way of sharing. I'm sure there are colleagues with different interests or working on particular projects, which could be also run in other places. So there could be some kind of sharing, either clinical interest or research interest as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's amazing idea. And also I have idea to create a group chat, for example, in WhatsApp or Viber, and ask all participants, just ask if they are okay, just send them a link. And in case someone wants to add herself or himself to this group chat, so it will be easy to cooperate, to share thoughts, to share ideas, so we will be everyone at the same place at the same time. I think it's a nice option.
I think it's a lovely idea because we can create a community, and as Jeffrey just wrote, and Dr. Kanda said, and you, I think it would be an incredible collaboration because each of us have something that we can contribute, or share information that perhaps other people wouldn't have and can be used in their practice or in life. So I think it could be a very valuable resource, a data bank, as it were.
Yeah, it's much more practical than emails, and you can always mute the chat in case it's irritating you with messages, and you can delete yourself from the chat or add again. So it's a good option, and we will be all together there, and we can collaborate, share ideas, maybe work on some researches. By the way, it's very nice. So you are always welcome. I will create this chat and send the link to all participants with also the link of recordings of yesterday and today's conference, and also with certificates. So yes, Dr. Kanda, nice initiative. Thank you. Any others? Maybe? Yes, dear Batya.
I feel like we just scratched the surface of a lot of different topics. And it would be good to have, in addition to a chat, an actual meeting like we're having now, where we pick just one of the topics, and we actually exchange all of our ideas about it in a real Socratic dialogue type way, where we explore it much more deeply, just, one topic at a time.
Also very nice. I'm always in, and maybe also make some roadmap, because sharing ideas is good, but we need to act. We need to do something, because meaning is action, is doing something. So we will find meaning, but we need to do something with this meaning. So let's share, of course, and then create some roadmap how to implement this in real life. Inside our country, outside. Dr. Aureliano, please.
Yes, I would agree very much with all these proposing. I would also like to propose you one idea. I am conducting a project like this among the Spanish-speaking logotherapists and among the universities, 7 universities in Latin America, in Spain, and in Italy. So in these last 2 years, we have been meeting almost every month, but now we are changing for 2025. We will meet maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So, and that will be in Spanish. So if you like, we can work on this idea. So we may have 2 or 3 conference like this in English, and then we may have 2 or 3 like this in Spanish. So that's an idea. We can work on that. We can see how is it feasible or not.
Mhm. Thank you very much. Yes, all initiatives are very welcome. Thank you, Dr. Aureliano. And as for me, I wanted to say that this conference should be in November, actually, because the previous time it was in November 15th, 16th. And I also want to announce in advance and take this responsibility again that the next conference, hopefully, God will bless us, will be in 2025, November 15th, 16th, again, Saturday and Sunday. So I inform you, of course, in advance. And here in chat, I see the comment of dear Christine. Yes, that Sabine Rettinger from Germany should be with us. Yes, and unfortunately for some objective reasons, she canceled her speech, but Sabine was with us at our previous conference, and it was very short time to inform everyone. So yes, I inform in advance that we will have conference in November, and yes, let's make other conferences for sure. Yeah. My dream is to make minimum hybrid conference, not only online, but offline as well. What is the conference in November? Again, the One Humanity. I want to make this conference annual. So this kind of conference, One Humanity, will be annually every year in November. This year was exception, and my apologies for that. Yes, and the comment of our dear colleague, Memdu Hosmet, fascinating with the quality of presentations, questions, and comments. I'm more than ready to contribute to all initiatives. Thank you. It means a lot, really. Thank you very much. Yeah, any other ideas?
Yes, I have on the one hand the idea.
Yeah, sorry, Daniel. Yeah,
no
welcome.
problem. That, for example, because I asked 2 years ago for an email list and it didn't happen, maybe because of the data protection thing. But I think it's very easy in the Google form. When you register, you just put the question, is it okay for you to share your email with the others? And then you just click yes, and then you know these are the emails everybody can get. And maybe for now, we could just write everybody short in the chat that it's okay to share our email, and then we already have something to start with. This is the one thing. And the other thing that maybe you could consider is to do something like, or 1 or something like 2, that there's also some interaction part like a workshop or something where it can be also, like we had also some parts of it this time with the logo art, maybe a little bit to make it stronger, this aspect also. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, amazing. I will write it down for me to remember. Yes, really, workshops are a nice idea because all presentations should be separately considered as workshops or as separate meetings because they're very wide and we don't have so much maybe time today to move in every direction. But yes, we need workshops, and also logo art will be great, and maybe coaching will be great as well. We have two wonderful experts here. Oh, more than two. It's dear Eleni, it's dear Memdu, it's dear Ronnie. So also, I see my colleague from Georgia, Eteri, she's a PCC coach. Also, we have lots of coaches here, so we can have debates, we can discuss the meaning-oriented, the meaning-centered coaching, and it's also a nice idea for workshop. Yes, and about Google Form, yes, we will think which option is better for participants, and of course we will share this information. Thank you very much, Daniel. Any other ideas? Yes, Christoph, welcome. Hello.
Hi guys, hi Nino. I tried to start a video, but actually you will not see much because I'm driving since 2 days, more or less. I had to help out my mother on the other side of Germany, so I couldn't take part from the desk. What I want to say is that I'm very thankful that I can follow again the One Humanity conference that you organized it first, and the second one is that I really enjoy the idea of this international aspect, because there is this, I don't know the name of the philosopher now, which is the sense of the speaking is like, if you see how life can be, as more as you see how life can look like, as more you know how to live, or you learn how to live. And this is one of my ideas, more offline idea, to connect with each other, even with the idea to send patients maybe abroad to other therapists in other regions of the world with other history connection and whatever. So yeah, for me something really big, and to see all of you here is something which gives me a lot of power. I'm very thankful for that, honestly.
Perhaps following up from your idea now and from what's been said, we could have something like once a month, like a networking meeting in a way, where we can, you know, if we have a problem or we want more advice on something, maybe someone else is a specialist in the field, and, you know, to bring up questions and discussions, because I think from the discussions, we also learn a lot. For example, today, a lot of the talks, I think we could have discussed for a long time. And, you know, and these meetings would really be the people who want to interact and want to learn. And like you say, can refer people. Because, for example, you can have a specialization that I'm not so good at. So I would rather send someone to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Dear Ronnie, please.
Hey, can you hear me? Because I'm in the car. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. So I've been listening. I want to suggest some wonderful ideas. I want to suggest that we can use the Zoom platform to use breakout rooms to actually enhance a lot of the discussion. Because in addition to the frontal discussions, breakout rooms are very fertile and very creative, and we can actually have more interaction that way. So that could be part of a workshop or part of a lecture series as well. I want to throw that idea out, and I'd be glad to help you work on it if that's something of interest to people.
Yes, thank you. Do you mean meeting in Zoom once a month and also make breakout rooms for discussion?
Yes, yes. I think the breakout room platform gives you a lot of flexibility, and to actually you can do many micro topics in a topic, and it also enhances discussion among the group. So I think it's a good way to enhance the connection between us, and also to proliferate the ideas that are raised.
Yes, that's very good. That's nice. Thank you very much for this idea. Dear Memduh, yes, please.
I just wanted to inform that in Viktor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy in US, bi-monthly, we are reconvening under the name LogoChat. Someone is doing a presentation and we are discussing it over there. So it can be another channel for us to come together. So because the reason is to come together. So I just wanted to inform that it is a bi-weekly and very casually. One brings a topic and we are discussing there. I just wanted to share for your knowledge.
Thank you very much. Yes, and the main word was casual. It's really nice. Yeah, and not to make presentation, but just to think, just to reflect, just to share ideas about the topics that are bringing burning under nails. Very difficult maybe topics, maybe very discussive topics, but we need to talk about that. We need to talk about problems, our problems, our country problems, global problems, and find solutions, logotherapeutic solutions. And then we can help our students, our community, our patients. We can help by this. So yes, that's very good. Yeah. And maybe here we have dear Ronnie, do you want anything to add?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and maybe we have here some green logotherapists, I mean, who are on their way of becoming a logotherapist. Do we have some? No, everyone is already
I'm a
logotherapist.
student. No, I'm not a logotherapist. I'm learning with Batya. She's my
Oh, that's
teacher.
very nice. That's what I wanted to ask you as a student. What do you need as a logotherapy student to add to your study process, maybe?
Like we've done today, a lot more discussions, and as a therapist to learn more. For me, I came to logotherapy, I was practicing it intuitively without knowing what it was. So for me, the actual logotherapeutic principles come naturally for me, and human nature. But I think for a lot of people, they don't. And students in general, not saying here, but from what I've seen, they cover, it's more the norm now that they expect to come to the lesson to be spoon-fed everything and not to do anything in between. You know, if there's any academic works, it's just sort of knock it out. AI is a big thing now. So I think more of the interaction at meetings and the discussions to some people need to be spoon-fed. Some people need to learn what logotherapy is. And you need to get the spark in these people that it's not just a technique. and that it can be applied to everywhere and everything to get the passion going, real passion.
Yes, thank you very much. And here are more students of dear Batya, Dr. Kanda. Yeah, maybe from your perspective, maybe you need also more discussions or maybe supervisions or maybe intervisions. What is your point of
May I
view?
ask you a question?
Yes, sure, Dr.
Sure. My question is, in your in order to become psychotherapist, so the question is, how many years of universities you need to study in order to become a psychologist? Here in Europe, or at least in Italy, we have a distinction between the psychologist and the psychotherapist. In order to become a psychologist, students need to study 5 years university. In order to become a psychotherapist, they need 4 more years specialty. So altogether, there are 9 years. So what's your system of psychology in university
Who are you
there?
asking? In Israel, it's very different in the sense that anybody can be a psychotherapist. You can do a course of, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, and you can say that you're a psychotherapist. The big thing here also is coaching, but a lot of them are sort of doing therapy. Coaching, you can do a course of 2 days. It's absolutely horrendous.
So you won't be
There is
accepted.
no,
You won't be accepted by the Psychological Association.
you won't be accepted, but you still work in it. And most people don't care about being accepted. You know, I'm talking again, I'm not talking from the academic community. I'm talking about from sort of on the ground level. There's, you know, you throw a stone and hit a psychotherapist or someone. It's with everything here. You know, you can. There's not really any regulation.
But there is when
So
it comes to applying for a job, there is. If you're working for a government.
Yeah, if you want to go and work in the workforce, I'm talking about private practice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Nino, in response to your question of like what could be unmet needs, again, Batya is a fantastic teacher, by the way, and
Thank you.
but in terms of like an interest would be people come from different avenues, sort of to Mamdou's point, with different levels of academic training and education, you know, across the world. And so it would be helpful to know, you know, the communities of people who are expert in logotherapy. I'm a physician and neurologist who does, you know, a lot of interventional mental health and helping people process complex neurologic disease. And Batya can educate me remarkably. It would be nice also to meet other MD physicians who do something similar if they exist, to sort of understand how they're applying logotherapy to their practices, only as just another layer of learning or community. And so if I'm not sure, you know, if there is some sort of directory of people who are, you know, that do this kind of thing, but it would be helpful. I haven't asked Batya this yet. I'm sure she knows the answer.
You have to meet Dr. Kanda.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, right. I think I sort of did. Yeah.
I'm grateful that I'm working with Batya. So we do have a number of meetings in Israel and South Africa as well. So we also need to consider that in mind in terms of the number of meetings. But I would definitely be more than happy to meet colleagues and anyone else in different setup. We definitely, I believe for me, that is the calling we have as logotherapists and even logotherapy students is for us to stand and work together to build a community of care based on logotherapy. Thank you.
Thank you again. It's really nice initiatives, nice thoughts, and more. I wanted to ask you about what do you think about ethical things in logotherapy? Do we, as logotherapists, as head of associations or institutions, do we need some ethical committee, or we don't need them?
That's a very, 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 very tricky question you're asking. We definitely need ethical committees, but the challenge is that we have different structures, as what Lino have said, in terms of different professions. Like if you have clinical psychologists or physicians or social workers or coach, they do have different organizations where they are affiliated to, and those organizations might have a committee or a section on ethics. To my knowledge, maybe Batia would correct me, I don't know if we have our own committee known somewhere of logotherapists with a certain rules, at least for logotherapists in terms of ethics. So that could be, if it's not there, that could be something which we might have to work on, because we definitely have to have an ethical committee just to orient ourselves, and especially students, especially when they need to conduct research.
Yeah, I think we should be in touch with Alexander Battiani about that.
Yeah, because my idea not to just make our local committee, but to make it global. And all of us should be involved in this. And we definitely need mediators, dear Memdu. Yes, we need, because some issues arise and it's okay. We all are people, we all have difficulties, we all have troubles and our shadows and so on so far. Yeah, that's why I think we need such I don't know, organization or committee or group of people or group of elders. I don't know how to call it, but yes, we definitely need to do this. And this was my suggestion a couple of years ago, but I think time has come and maybe we should move in this direction as well. Yeah.
Yeah, if you allow me now that you're talking about the ethical section or committee, I don't know as well if there is a need for supervision group in a sense that either for researchers, if there are students or people who are conducting research, they might need some kind of peer review space where they share their research, their progress, and just have people who can also confront them, challenge them with ideas, and see differently things. That is one way of doing research supervision, but there is also a possibility of having clinical supervisions where some I don't like to call it cases, but some issues can be presented and discussed to just support each other. I don't know, that could be another possibility, unless it is done in another forum. Yeah. Because what we also need to avoid is to start something separate from other organizations. We just have to, as much as it's specific and unique as it is, it should be connected to the bigger group of other network of logotherapists. Thank you.
You're making me think of something, Dr. Kanda. You know, when my students, the diplomat students, do a research project, sometimes I have in mind somebody that I can refer them to that could help them think it over. So I could put that out there to a group like this. I have a student who's doing research on such and such a topic. Would anyone like to, you know, to be part of that discussion? To help them, to guide them.
Yes, yes, we definitely need that. We definitely need that. And the other thing as well, so it's Nino, I'm sorry, idea now coming. One is ethics section, second is supervision, but we might have another space is I don't know how to call it, is fundraising or sponsorship of some of the students, or even some of the projects. We might have students who have a particular project which is well written, but they do not have means of conducting the project. So if they can have a forum where they can find ways of funding. I don't know how it will come, but if I don't know in which way, or through universities or through different organizations, or individual who are prepared to support such projects, because those projects can lead into a document or books written or workshop which can be later on shared with other people. So we do have such students here in South Africa who have great ideas, great projects, but the issue might be fundings as well. Thank you. Yeah, I see we have written project research mentorship registry. Yes, that could be a good idea.
Yeah, and I also write it down because we need to write all ideas to make it real. And a nice idea about funding. Yeah, funding is our pain, and we need to find some resources. So maybe there are among us or someone who is good in finance, or maybe in, I don't know, how it called, crowdfunding, or maybe funding research, or finding these funds. So maybe we can find some sponsorship to make all these ideas real, because all global ideas need some finance. For example, translating books. Yeah. And I see Dr. Kanda and Dr. Aureliano said yes, because yes, we need that. And I want to add that I just received email from our speaker, Ana Luisa Guzman. Unfortunately, she has also very objective reasons. Her mother is sick right now, and she is with her. So let's wish her health and send her our best regards and blessings of good health. And unfortunately, she is unable to join us today, but with all her heart and mind, she is with us. And anyway, let's thank her for her initiative also as well to join us. And thank you very, very much for all these 2 days, for making this conference happen. Thank you for all your ideas, all your initiatives. And I think that we will move forward definitely with everything. And it will be another more opportunities to see each other in nearest future. And in a year, hopefully we will have another conference with another important topic. So let's get ready for another conference. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for organizing it and
Bye-bye.
for all the participants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Dr. Nino.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank
Let
you
us
very
keep in
much.
touch.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Goodbye.
Let us
It was
keep
a
in touch.
pleasure.
Ciao.
you.